Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. Is it the Fantastic Four, the Furious Four? Have a think about that, Liam, in terms of superheroes or supervillains. It's Ian Conroy, Liam Carrigan, and Lawrence Conley, and we're here to talk all things Celtic. Yes, it might be an international break, guys, but by God, I'll start with you, Lawrence. Loads to discuss in the world of Celtic. Big meeting last night. Everybody seems to have heard something about it, even though there was only 20 people in the room.
Yeah, it's. I think it was on Twitter before the meeting finished. Goodness knows what's going on. Listen, it's for the group to decide how they want to control the flow of information. But I suppose the people in there in a fairly privileged position, and they should maybe treat it a wee bit more seriously if they want to achieve their objectives. I don't think Celtic will be impressed with that information going out so quickly before minutes are agreed. I don't think other members of the group will be impressed, and you're not building a group. But then it's kind of, it's already a kind of hard working relationships to start with. There's disagreement between Celtic and the group, and to put up that relationship further back just to be the first guy that posts something to a WhatsApp group or Twitter, really. But I suppose it's down to each individual's morals, isn't it, and what they want to do. But we won with an injury time goal. Dyson was back to the Dyson of old for the last half hour.
So was Lawrence Conley. So were you, because you were covering the game with me. It was like,
and I told you at half time to keep Dyson on, don't Southern. We need him for goals.
You did. We'll definitely be talking about the football, but what I would say is I understand what Lawrence explains there in relation to being privileged to actually be party to the information that was revealed last night and discussed last night. But it is so important to ensure that there's a consistent flow of information from the collective. It's a process. It's something that as soon as I get, I will share with you. I've got my WhatsApp open on my desktop. So if anything comes in, I will share it with you. But until that moment, I can't deal with specifics. But what I can do is I can give you my view on those people who run our football club who were at the meeting. I can give you that. I can give you my opinion on that. So you turn up at Celtic Park. I think it was a very positive step by the club to invite the collective in. And it wasn't just the Celtic Fans Collective. There was also, in addition to the main groups who are part of the signatories of that open letter, there was also the North of Ireland Celtic Supporters Clubs who two of their representatives were in attendance. So you go back to that point, the fact that people have actually travelled from Ireland to attend the meeting. Unbelievable. And obviously the club instigated the meeting, and the content of which will be revealed at some point today with regards to a statement. All the minutes and stuff like that are being looked at. But what I can say from being in there for, I think it was maybe 2.5 hours, it was over 2 hours anyway, is that we need strong leadership at Celtic Football Club. We need people who I think would be a powerhouse, either in their own boardroom or in the boardroom or on a call negotiating with another football club globally. This is the thing, Liam. We work globally. We are trying to cut deals with Japanese clubs, with Boca Juniors, as well as with Dundee. So you need somebody, I think, who is an absolute leader. And as I say, a powerhouse in any room, a dynamic figure who is able to negotiate the best possible deal for Celtic. Do I think on last night, and it was only on last night's evidence, it's the only direct dealings I've had, do I think we have those people at our football club? Because I'm not telling tales at school. It was confirmed that those two guys, Chris Mackay, Michael Nicholson, do the deals for Celtic. A resounding no. Not even close. Nowhere near it. I have dealt, and by the way, yes, they're qualified in the world of finance. And as a lawyer, I get it. I can't do that. I do what I do. If I need a lawyer, I'll get a lawyer in. But I wouldn't send a lawyer into a negotiation as a CEO of Celtic Football Club to try and establish a strong enough squad, Liam, to compete in the Champions League, at least match what we did last season in the Champions League. Would I send Mr. Nicholson and Mr. Mackay into a room to negotiate those deals? Absolutely not. They're too weak. They're far too weak. They're not leaders. And you can think what you want about banners with crosses on faces and all the rest of it. I'm just giving you my opinion. Are they strong enough to lead this football club into the next generation of success? My answer is no. Liam, it's fair enough to have that opinion. They might have the same opinion about me as a podcaster. I'm not too sure, but that's my view.
I don't think they'll have that opinion of you, because that would suggest that they actually watch or pay attention to anything fans say, and I really don't think they do. Based on the murmurings that I have heard about the meeting yesterday, I'm not going to comment directly on anything because, like you say, the facts have not come out officially yet, so it's inappropriate to do so. But you can talk about general impressions you get from what you've heard online and what is going about. I'm going to use a comparison to one of my favourite films, The Godfather. Remember the scene in The Godfather where Michael says to Tom Hagen, sorry, Tom, you're not a wartime consigliere, you're out. In other words, we need someone who can get stuff done with a sense of urgency, and you're not it. Seems to me like Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay are our Tom Hagen characters. Maybe well-intentioned, but they are not what we need to get the job done right now. And
the thing is, Liam,
last night just showed that, in my opinion.
Yeah, great analogy. But the thing is, what I would say, absolutely, very good guys. Celtic supporters. Michael Nicholson, Celtic season ticket holder for years and years before he was employed by the club. But I was rather surprised. Should I have been? I don't know. Is it the reason, going back a couple of weeks, that we spent so much money over the initial discussion prices of Engels, Ida and Trusty? Well, these are the guys doing the deals. These are the guys doing the deals. I just want somebody who dominates a room, dominates a conversation, dominates a negotiation. And I didn't see it last night. I did not see any semblance of that last night. All the content of that will be revealed in due course. I'll keep a wee eye on the WhatsApp. Is it a massive concern? Well, I think the club are strong enough in terms of where we are right now, Ian. But I don't think it was these figures that got us here. You know, we're in a period of domination and success at the moment, and we're constantly told to count the titles, count the trophies, look at your success, be thankful for it. And this isn't me throwing bricks at my football club. This is me wanting the best for my football club. I want Celtic to absolutely maximise their potential. Do I think they're doing that? No. Are they even doing it domestically? Right now, no. Because we're not entertaining the fans. We don't have a team on the park that you go into a game with the confidence that you're going to blow a team away. I've not had that this season, Ian. So you can rest on your laurels. You can bask in the glory of the success that actually is the result of other people's hard work, and you're just jumping into the driver's seat to take a few miles in. But you've got to look at it. You've got to say, what next for Celtic? How do we move into the next generation of success? Are we in good shape to do that? And I have my doubts. At the same time, also, Ian, it's not comfortable, I don't think, being at odds with your football club. I don't wake up thinking, yes, this is great, let's get stuck in about them, put out a few negative tweets and give the club a kicking. I don't like it. It doesn't fill me with a positive energy, right? I would much rather have walked into that room last night and been blown away by the dynamism, the magnetism, the charisma, the intent. I didn't see any of it. Ian, you've been in big meetings and big corporations, etc., with organisations and companies. You've been the head of big projects. And I'm pretty sure you've been in a room on both sides of those scenarios where you absolutely have belief in the people leading a project or a company. And then the flip side is you don't. Hopefully Ian can hear us. Can he hear us? He's thinking about it. Yeah, there we go. Slight delay, mate.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
All good, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, for some reason my reception is so in terms of, you know, sort of the future plan and all that kind of stuff, and how we're going to sort of move forward. The people in situ are not. They're clearly demonstrating that they're not able to. They're comfortable, and I don't know who sets their KPIs and what and who measures it. But certainly not to a standard that can you still hear me?
You're coming and going, mate. We'll see if you could reset your system and we'll go again. We will go again. We never stop, all that stuff. Lawrence, I'll throw it over to you then, mate. It really does come down to it. Now, in my lifetime of being aware of who runs Celtic Football Club, what am I talking about here? I had no idea who ran Celtic Football Club when I started watching them. when I
Top
started
speed.
going to the games in 1987. Well, you're slightly older than me. And you're coming from an era where a football manager more or less did control clubs. You know, you had Don Revie's of this world, Brian Clough's of this world, Bill Shankly.
Jock
That's
brought
not
it in,
the
didn't
case.
he? Jock
Yeah.
had to tell them he'd be picking the team.
He did, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of the intricacies of that, signings and all this kind of stuff. This was discussed last night. All the information will be revealed. And I'm not doing that because I like to have information that I can't give. It's just not my gift to give, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would talk about it right now. And I think it's important that we don't have the leaks because then you don't look professional and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of that, Lawrence, I probably wasn't aware until obviously the problems in the 90s. And then I became aware of the Kellys and the Whites and all that. And then I could start linking them to the names and the history because I was always into the history of Celtic, right back to the first game and all this kind of stuff. So I understood it then. And I've kept a keen eye on it since. It was like I was politicised from a young age to always try and hold the club to account. I don't have an issue with that, Lawrence. I remember Si Ferry, and by the way, it's not a dig at Simon. I think what Simon's doing on Open Goal is phenomenal. He's built the biggest Scottish football channel on the planet. Unbelievable work that the guy does. He made a point. He said, I don't know if it was critical or just a very good observation. He said there's no other football fan base in the world like Celtic fans for going on about their board. And he's probably right, Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, look, we've learned something. You know, guys like Brendan Sweeney and Matt and Jim Orr, you know, with the figureheads in the 90s and look at the change it achieved. So, you know, if it worked out like that once, you know, you can see why you'd want to try it again. Listen, I think I don't think the board are very good at communicating what they think world class is, because it's just, you know, if it's world class, that's what we want to be. You know, where do you see Celtic's limits as a board and as a club? Can you communicate that to the fan base? Listen, we won't be investing because we don't see the point, because we think Europe's a bonus, right? We'd understand that, and we'd understand the levels of investment, but just to say we just want to be world class and everything, really, what does that mean? How do we measure world class? Is that having half your banners up in the stadium?
I'm glad you clarified that.
Half your banners up in the stadium.
This is a family show, Lawrence.
Sorry, tell me, mate. But yeah, it's just, I don't think they communicate well at all. You know, they'll just give us a phrase, we'll be world class and everything. What does that mean? How you measure world class? Was that a world class transfer window? I don't know. I would say not, you know, from where I'm sitting. So it's maybe they're doing that world class that another team in Glasgow used to use. You know, we've got world records for the Scottish 4th Division, biggest attendance ever. You know, it could be that kind of world class. I mean, there's definitely a disconnect of what their expectations are and what Celtic fans think we can reasonably expect. And I think as long as they give kind of phrases that are hard to measure, like we just want to be world class.
Well,
doesn't really mean anything.
I'm going to open that up, right? Because I've had jobs that I didn't really enjoy in the corporate world. I know that Ian has, you have as well, Lawrence. And obviously your background in journalism and teaching, etc., you might have come across this as well with regards, Liam, to strategy, objectives, all this kind of stuff. Absolutely, you need it. You need a vision. You absolutely need a vision. But I'm going to throw this over to Ian because I know that in terms of being a project manager and all this kind of stuff, this world-class stuff, right? This world-class stuff for me, absolutely, yeah. That would be your utopia in all walks of life and in all walks of business, to be world-class at something. But that isn't, for me, a strategy. The strategy is how you do it, how you get to that point. And I just feel that the club is selling it almost like a strategy. For me, it's an objective. It might be your main objective, a big objective, to be world-class at communication or producing footballers, Champions League footballers, or be brilliant at recruitment and data analysis and be world-class at all of these things, world-class at fan engagement. I'll leave the people in the comments section to decide whether or not we're hitting that. But that's not a strategy, is it, Ian? A strategy is how you get there. It's the how rather than the objective, surely. Unfortunately, Ian's dropped out again, and he's the man who could answer that question. But Lawrence, again, from a corporate aspect.
You need measures in place, right? You know, world class is an aspiration. I think that's what you're saying. That's what we aspire to. All right. What do we mean by world class? How do we measure that? Right. So once we know what we mean and where that sits in the scale, where are we in the scale just now?
Yeah.
And how do we close the gap? And how long does it take to close the gap? What do we need to do? Do we need to bring in, I don't know, at time of transfers, obviously, I don't think it went well. I don't think the manager think it went well, or the captain thinks it went well. I wasn't in the room yesterday. I don't know if those two guys think that went well. I don't know if they think it was world class. But if it comes out and they have their review and it didn't go well, can you just bring in some extra capacity for somewhere to maybe help you get these deals done? A guy that's a specialist in doing that, is that possible? You know, they need to have ways and means of getting us from where we are to where they want to be, what they've decided world class is. But as far as I can see, that there's no measurement to their world class. You know, world class will be what winning a treble, winning a double every year. Is that what it is? Does it involve going further in Europe? You know, does it involve developing our young players? How are you measuring any of this? And without that is probably why it's dead easy for us to criticise and for them to dodge the criticism, because there's really nothing you can nail them down on, is there? You know.
Well, the big thing for me is, as football fans, right? You've got to also speak our language. You can't give us a corporate salad, a word salad, you know, because people just switch off from that nonsense. It's like being at work. We don't want to hear that. But what we want to hear is a vision, a clear vision of where this football club is going. Because, as I say, there were people in that room last night who travelled over from Ireland. That's not unusual for them because of their commitment to Celtic. And it's not just the home games they go to either. They travel all over. They'll travel all over the globe because of their commitment to Celtic. And there's so many people across the world where this isn't just a business stroke customer relationship that we've got here. This is different. You know, there's only two constants in my life, and that's my family and Celtic Football Club. Everything else has changed. Everything else in my life in the last 47 years has changed at some point along the way. They're my only two constants. And there's so many people in the comment section who support Celtic Football Club, and it's the same for them, and it means so much. And that's why there'll be a lot of people agitated, actually, that I simply cannot say what happened in the meeting last night, because it's not being signed off, sealed and delivered, and then it's out there for the world to see. And I think what we should do is we should show the respect to everybody who was there and organised it, and also to those from the football club who were there, to wait until we can push the button on that. But what I can give you is my general feeling about how the club is run. And Liam, it probably comes as no surprise what I've said, and I don't mean to be derogatory. This is our football club. You want the best in class from the person welcoming you at the door, who was tremendous and spoke to everybody and knew most of the people coming in, to the ladies up the stairs who welcomed you into the suite, who served you a cup of tea and all this kind of stuff. You want every single person to represent Celtic in the best way possible, right? And as fans, there's an onus on us as fans to represent the football club as well. So when you come right up the chain of command to the CEO of the company, you're thinking to yourself, wow, what an aspiration. I don't know Michael Nicholson's age. I think he's younger than me. Imagine attaining that position at such a young age, at a football club that you love, that you've been born into, that you have this emotional attachment to. That's all great and that's all well. Wow, I tip my hat to you. But can you do the job? It goes back to wee Bertie in the tunnel. They look great, these Inter Milan players, but can they play? And it's like, you know, that's phenomenal. And by the way, it must be amazing. I don't want a job at Celtic. That's not my end game. I want to continue building a Celtic state of mind and building a community. That's not about any ego. But imagine driving into Celtic Park as your workplace every day, walking in those front doors. The guy's living the dream. I absolutely get it, Liam. But he needs to be capable at his job.
Yeah, and this is the thing is, you know, we talked about the whole world-class aspect. They've talked about standards, about, you know, aspirations. They use all these corporate buzzwords, but there is no quantifiable measure that's actually put in place to say, okay, at what point do we hit a target where we can say we are world class in this area? At what point do we have, you know, a budget that's considered an acceptable spend on transfers? You know, these are things like, you know, that AI generated statement, and it was AI generated. So let's say, go ahead and contradict me if I'm wrong in that, but I did an analysis. It came back 75% likelihood that was AI generated. So I'm going with that. that was just to me, the sort of distillation of everything that is wrong with this current board. A statement that nobody could be bothered to put their name to, that was poorly researched, that contained outright fictions and lies, and then they expect the fans to just say, "Oh, well, fair enough, we'll just go on with it then." And, the meeting last night, which, again, what I would say is that it's not like, I'm seeing people in the chat talking about people being gagged and whatever, right? Yourself, me, Lawrence, we are not legally obliged to not say anything, right? But it's a matter of principle. A collective works together, right? Now, certain people, I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to start any fights, but certain people on the internet, in their eagerness for attention, have decided to break ranks there. And they decided to say what they think before a collective message has been agreed. And to be quite honest, that is playing right into the board's hands. Because you're going to have Celtic fans going at other Celtic fans today, calling each other out for speaking out of turn, going off on their own agendas. There's already things flying about saying that people are doing this just for ego and whatever. And that is exactly what the board want. They want us fighting amongst each other rather than confronting the real problem, which is them. And we need to stay on track with that. And if that means I've got to wait another 3 or 4 hours, or maybe wait till tomorrow to write up my honest opinion about this meeting in a blog, fine. I'll do that, because the collective is more important than whether or not I make a few quid on Google Ads today.
Listen, Liam,
there's another aspect to it, though, isn't there?
When you go on,
you're trying to repair a relationship between the fans and the Celtic board.
Yes.
So both sides should be signing off on those minutes before they're released. Listen, we're going to have a good relationship, but anything you tell me, I'm putting out there before we've even agreed what it said. Never mind, you've agreed. Are Celtic going to treat that seriously? They're going to go, wait a minute, how can we give you an insight into how we run things if the meeting, before the minutes are signed off, you're away leaking stuff from the meeting straight away? We were rightly angry about the leak about Brendan to the Sun.
Yeah.
More or less the same things happened here. And if you're to judge it by the same morals,
I think for different motivations, though. For different motivations.
It could be for different motivations, but it's information that's getting leaked that shouldn't be getting leaked. You're trying to build a relationship with the board. Don't know if they're trying to build one with you. That still, remains to be seen. But this won't help build it. No,
and see the big thing as well. Obviously, I'm driving back to Fife after the meeting, and because I'm a good boy when I'm driving, or I'm half blind, so I can't really be looking at my phone anyway. And I don't want to break the law, and I certainly wouldn't admit it on a live stream that 2,500 people are watching. But in any case, I didn't see any messages till I got home. Liam, you got it. I didn't see any messages till I landed in Fife, and my name is all over them because I've spoken to somebody last night, and it just shows you, because if I'm speaking to somebody and that's then getting mentioned and it's then getting shared and all this kind of stuff, and you're speaking in confidence, it's a bit of a breach of trust. And I think that's what Liam was talking about. I'll share as much as I can share, but I can't share any content from that meeting. I've got my WhatsApp open, and as soon as the collective have signed off the communication, and it might not happen before 1:30, I cannot share it, unfortunately. It's not my gift to give, and I'm not mad with the ego, and I want to just put it out there to be the first. It's important that it's accurate. It's important that everybody's agreed to it, as Lauren said there. But what I can say is, in terms of my feeling going in there, I'm open-minded, and I think that if Michael Nicholson has, elevated from maybe the company lawyer to the CEO, and it hasn't worked out, I don't know if there's a step down that can happen there, because by all accounts, he's obviously a committed and dedicated individual in his role. I don't know what the future holds for him, but for a CEO going into, high stakes negotiations when it comes to transfers, etc., I want someone who can absolutely dominate the room. That's what I want. And you can love or loathe him. And I know that there's a huge opinion on Peter Lawwell, our former negotiator. But I think that in terms of negotiation, he had the negotiating skills. I'll give him that. He had the negotiating skills required. Yes, we signed a ton of players that we shouldn't have signed. Yes, some of them probably go into that category that, there's no science behind signing players, etc., etc. But in terms of a negotiator, someone who is a powerhouse, we don't have that at the moment at Celtic Football Club. Now, we will look at that just like we look at the performance at the weekend and say this person is performing well for our football club and this one is not. And I don't think it's any different. So let's bring in some of the comments coming through. John Sweeney on the WhatsApp. No, in fact, he's on the YouTube. That was a WhatsApp notification, but not the one we're looking for. Is it true with the McGowan transfer that Nicholson had to leave the room to authorise an extra 200 grand for the Luke McGowan transfer? If true, this is an amateur hour. Running a football club. This is a story that I spoke about the other week, and I spoke about it and I gave as much information as I was allowed to give from the source who gave me it, which was everything. Because sometimes you speak to people, they want to set the record straight. And Luke McGowan wanted to sign for Celtic, and there were two clubs in for his signature, and it was Celtic and Hibs. Both clubs had bid £800,000. Up to that point, the contact between the two clubs were Craig Strachan and Gordon Strachan. Craig at Celtic, Gordon at Dundee. It gets into that negotiating area and phase of the deal where you've got Michael Nicholson in the room, obviously with the financial officer because he's doing the contracts. And the negotiation is taking place between the player and his agent and the two representatives from Celtic. Celtic will not budge from 800 grand. So Luke McGowan is told, right, the deal's not happening, but it is on the table for Hibs. If you want to obviously negotiate with them because they might up it to £1 million, that's what Dundee wanted. And McGowan said, no, I'm going home. If I don't sign for Celtic tonight, I'll be a Dundee player. And he's on his way back to wherever he lives in the Dundee area, and he is phoned and asked to come back to the football stadium because Celtic have agreed to up it by 200 grand. But that did have to get, I would assume, well, I'll give you the facts. Michael Nicholson had to leave the room before coming back to say, right, we can bid £1 million. Whether or not he needed authorisation, I will leave it up to you to decide. But if you need to authorise 200 grand and you're the CEO of a football club, that's a concern as well, because you need to have the ability, I think, and the instinct and the authority to be able to do these deals, Lawrence.
Yeah, you've got to have a sign-off limit, and we've got 90 million in the bank. Could be, I don't know what his sign-off limit, but certainly McGowan, we're not talking record transfer money. And
it's a drop in the ocean. It really is for a club like Celtic, isn't it?
Yeah, you would have thought so. It's a bit of a strange one. We don't know what his limits are. Listen, you said it. We don't know why Michael left the room. Maybe he just wanted time to think about it, put a bit of pressure on. Who knows? We don't know. But
you think it was tactical, Lawrence? Do you think that was a tactical walk away?
I don't know, mate. But listen, you like to think these negotiations could be smoother. I think throughout the summer that we know the negotiations didn't exactly happen quickly or smoothly for players that we were after. And we lost, a striker that looks like we badly need in the last couple of days because it didn't happen quick enough. So as a transfer tactic, I don't know if I'd employ it. I mean, I've not signed anyone for 800,000 or £1 million. No, you'd signed anybody for 800 quid. But it's strange. From the outside looking in it, we seem to do business slowly. We seem to miss a lot of targets. We have the manager and captain complaining about needing players in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think it's entirely unlinked to say that, a big reason we went out of Europe was because we didn't have players in time.
Absolutely. And another big reason, Lawrence, is the fact that we sold one of our best assets before the two qualifiers. Now, I'm not listening to anybody that says, oh, you still should have had enough. But let's have enough. Let's have Kuhn at right wing. Let's have Nicholas Kuhn at right wing for those two games.
Brendan's not entirely blameless. That team camped out and thought, you don't have a lot in the wings and you don't have a lot up front to create chances and take them. And listen, we've been struggling in Scotland creating and taking chances. So maybe they assessed us right. You look solid at the back, but we're not going to try to score. We'll just take it to penalties.
See the thing, Lawrence. See the thing about that, mate. Right, and I think we've gone over it. But just to summarise, here's my view on it. Right, I don't disagree with you. The players, so those on the pitch and those in the dugout, right, have to take their share of responsibility.
Yep.
Should we be able to put 11 players on the park from the squad available to us to beat Kyra over 210 minutes? The answer is absolutely yes. So I agree with you, mate. Absolutely.
And 100% we could have put a better team on if we'd done our deals. If we
This
didn't
is my point.
Maeda cleared out his locker at Lennoxtown. So he must have had a chat with his wife and kids. By the way, we're moving. Only to find out he's not. Same with Yang. I'll be off. Well, you're not.
Is that why he's dropped out the squad, do you think, Lawrence Yang? Do you think he's not finely tuned mentally?
We don't have a lot of options at right wing, do we? So what would it leave? I didn't see the injury report because I was surprised to see Colby Donovan out, and I'm thinking, well, surely that's down to injury. I thought he'd done enough to be the right back now. Certainly while AJ's out, who I think's back in grass next week. So I think he's in the gym at the moment. So not too long before we'll see AJ back.
That's a new term. I'm going to throw this one over to Liam. That's a new term. He's on the grass next week, isn't he? He's on the grass. It's a gateway. It's a gateway to getting in the first team.
See,
I don't think it's a new term. I think it's an old term with new meaning.
Is it a term? Is it a term we've nicked off the NFL or something? They seem to be doing all that all the time.
Well, was that not the famous quote that an NFL coach was asked, would you prefer grass or AstroTurf? He said, I don't know, I've never smoked AstroTurf.
that was on Only Fools and Horses. That was Rodney, wasn't it? Ah, brilliant. Yes, you're bringing back the memories. Any excuse for a laugh. But listen, I'm going to go back to the point as well in relation to the signings that we made, Lawrence, right? So if Tuneke, Iheanacho and Balikwisha, right, let's say, and these guys were not involved, obviously, in the Kairat game, if they were prepared to sign for Celtic when we were not in the Champions League, then they would have been prepared to sign for Celtic prior to the Kairat game. So you can tick that one off. It's not an unattainable target that we failed to get. It's players we wanted to get prior to the Kairat game. Am I correct?
So Balikwisha's fee, as I understand it, the fee was agreed the first week in July.
Mm-hmm.
The hold-up was getting the deal done with, apparently he's got various agents claiming a part with him. Apparently that was the hold-up, getting the deal.
But you bulldozer it. It's like
one of these things. So how hard is it to go, right, those three guys are your agents. Let's go
get them in.
We'll sort this out. Fly them over, do what you need to do, sort it out quickly.
Absolutely, Lawrence. I mean, I can actually see an opening here if I had time in my life. There's an opening here to have a team. Like there are a team of people who can work on a consultancy basis to come into top football clubs to get deals done. You can identify them. We'll get the deal done because Celtic are incapable of doing them. We don't have the people. In fact, there is now, and again, it's out there. It's on the David Lowe interview on the podcast. This is Acsom a few weeks ago. Paul Smith rather. There's now agencies, global agencies, who don't want to work with Celtic, don't want to do deals with Celtic, Lawrence.
I think I said that during the summer, where the transfer window was open. I said, look, there's agents that have been contacted and refused to work with Celtic because their expectations on a weekly salary and what they wanted for that, the agent's like, well, I can't deliver a Champions League level game-changing winger, and you're going to go up to 25 grand a week.
Right.
You're shopping in the wrong market there. That's a lemonade budget. So
the lemonade budget.
Yeah, you want champagne, mate, and they've got money for lemonade. It's kind of it's one of those things. I mean, we touched on that. A salary bandings. I think the bottom's come up a couple of grand, up from 6 to 8 since Martin was come in the door. 20 odd years ago. I think Kieran's now pushed out the top bracket up. Prior to that, it was around about the 40 grand mark. Kieran's pushed it up. You could argue probably because he was a free transfer. They probably just put some of that money into a weekly wage rather than a huge signing on fee. But largely, we work with the same salary bandings we did 20 odd years ago.
The thing is, well, Lawrence, there's like roots of the problem. I keep going on about peeling back layers, right? So there's roots of this problem. And one of the roots, obviously, is that we can't get deals done. So we end up paying more for the player. So the entire outlay is more than we should be paying because we can't get the deals done. We don't have a negotiator at the football club. Identifying talent, all right. Maybe, are we good at that? Maybe we are. Maybe we've got...
Here's the time to pay more for a deal. See, when you want a deal to get done and you want it in time for the Champions League, and there's 40 million resting on it, we've got 90 in the bank.
It's a calculated
risk. Need the extra million.
Yeah, it's a calculated risk.
Just get it done.
Pay the extra 200 grand. Pay
Yeah.
the extra 200 grand. Don't go and check your pager. But the thing with that, Liam, when I'm looking at it, we're in a situation at the moment where we might be really, really good at identifying talent, but if we can't get the deals done, it all falls down. So there's the root of that issue. Another root of the issue is the academy, right? And I've been saying this, banging the drum on the academy. And one of these days, I'm going to be looking at every single appearance for the last 25 years to see how many academy graduates have made 100 or more appearances for Celtic, because there's not many. There is not many. But the thing with that, though, in terms of the going up to the wage bracket that Lawrence is talking about, you've got a graduate coming in at the bottom tier of that wage bracket, and it's still a huge jump from the 800 to a grand they're making as a youth player, if you like, right? So they're then entering that bottom. So you've got more players in your bottom bracket because you're producing footballers. And that allows you to spend more money at the other end. But we don't have a clutch of young players in that bracket because we're not producing them through the academy. So there's roots to a lot of these problems that we need to sort out, Liam.
No, well, let's be honest. If you're a 16, 17-year-old promising young Scottish player, what are you going to do? Go to, like, I don't know, Airdrie or Partick Thistle, where it's a lower league, but you might get a game, or go to Celtic, where you'll be playing in the fifth tier. You know, we are actively harming the development of our young players by playing the B team in that West of Scotland league or whatever it's called. And with the greatest respect to the people who play in that league, that's fine if that's their level. It shouldn't be Celtic's level, even for our youth team. We should be miles above that. And that is a failing. And it just speaks to the general apathy around the club. Everything is done on the cheap. It's probably cheaper to put the B team into that league than it was to, get some similar sized teams from Europe together and say, let's do a wee round robin here or something. I'm sure something could have been arranged with similar sized clubs elsewhere in Europe that have B teams that need games.
I would also look at the possibility, and again, everybody I've spoken to, be it players from the 1980s who played in the reserve league, right through to those who have been involved with Celtic's academy. So if I'm talking to Brian McClare, for example, he's a guy that played reserve football, but then obviously was involved with Alex Ferguson's academy at Man United. And then he moves to the SFA, and he's got these incredible ideas about how to, rejuvenate Scottish football from grassroots. So when I'm talking to somebody like that, it's just, I'm a sponge. I then speak to Danny Craney, who worked with Tommy Burns, at, Celtic's academy, and the ideas and the vision that these people have got. And then I look at the reality of where we are as a football club. And yes, we, I think, are harmed by the environment we play in, Scottish football, insofar as we, I thought, had a very, very good forward-thinking opportunity by bringing B teams into the pyramids. But by leaving them there and languishing in the fifth tier means that the clubs aren't really going to invest a great deal. It also means you don't get the opportunity to play a hybrid team, which would benefit the fitness of experienced players, and also it would benefit the development of the younger players. Because if you're going to get promoted, you could go right up to the second tier of the Scottish game, and that's where Arnie Engels in Belgium plied his trade. That's where he learned his trade. Lawrence, playing for Club Next, which is Bruges' reserve team in the second division in Belgium. That for me is something that's beyond Celtic's control, so we need to find another way. But what they've done is, again, it's all about money. They've thrown money at the Barrafield complex, which I was down at yesterday. I went and had a wee look at that yesterday. They've thrown money at it. But why buy? If you're a bad driver, Lawrence, you're a bad driver in a Skoda and you're a bad driver in an Aston, right? So you can buy the best facilities. What about the people who are still there, who have failed for 20 years to produce enough footballers?
Listen, I think the club's done something to try and address it. Obviously Sean's come in, and we've seen a number of players go. I don't know. I've not seen the loan watch from Celtic TV, the updates, the statement from Celtic. Sean's come in because we realised there was an issue with developing players. We saw this as a block, and we see this as a way around it, and this is what we're doing to address the problem. I'm assuming that's why Sean's come in. I've not seen Celtic confirm it. You need to give the Sean experiment and the players get out and loan the number that's went out a bit of time to work. I mean, it looked like Kobe Donovan was going out and loan again until injury. And thankfully we didn't throw money and grab another right back transfer one. Even if we could have got that deal done, you know, he's come in the first team and looked good in his appearances so far. So maybe the club could have communicate. I mean, I'm assuming that's why Sean's in and they've seen that problem and that's why all these guys are getting out on loan. But maybe the club could communicate that better to us. You know, Barrowfield, I think Brendan wanted an indoor park first time he was around. I think Tommy and Fergus spoke about it way back before Fergus left the club. So we're eventually getting there. But the development's not been great. And listen, we've known since Acsom's been on, it's not been great. We've been talking about the reserve league and what we're going to do to replace it. You know, you remember Tommy used to put on the European friendlies to get his European experience?
Yeah, I do. I remember us playing Real Madrid in one of those friendlies. Barcelona.
Yeah, Protoneki played there. So, we could be doing that. We don't seem to. You know, so, and we do take action. The club don't really confirm if that's what the action's for. I'm assuming that's what Sean's in for. They've seen an issue. And they'll probably give that, I don't know, 2 or 3 years to see how these players develop, see if that starts to what seems to kick boys on better, make them more first team ready. Be great if the club just confirmed that's what they were doing. Again, they don't need to share all their business strategies with us. But if they've seen that as a deficiency and they've taken action to address it, fans might go, actually, there's some positive points for you. We know what these are doing. But the non-communication seems to be the communication strategy. Despite what's on Michael's board, allegedly on his board.
Well, the thing is, it's never been easier to communicate, Lawrence, so there's no excuse, really. I'm keen to bring in, there's a lot of frustration. I'm keen to bring in people's comments. Jerry Burns, you're in, probably a damp squib, but be interesting to hear my take on it. Jerry, if I was to use one word, it would be Tavernier's favourite, disappointing. There you go, it was disappointing. Joe Hamilton, afternoon troops, so it went as expected, they all have to go. This is a big thing for me. This is a big discussion point. They all have to go because I think that you need to implement a culture at the football club whereby the fans have to be at the heart of a decision-making process. You've got to engage with the supporters. You've absolutely got to start treating them like fans and supporters rather than customers. And what's happening today is after this show, I'm going to Glasgow to film an episode of This Is Acsom. And it's going to be called The State of Paradise because, you know, it was amazing as a Celtic supporter to see the incredible rebuild happening under Fergus McCann. And as I've said so many times on this show, my first season ticket for Celtic was actually at Hampden, 94-95. Why? Why did it take me so long to get a season ticket? Because people didn't tend to buy season tickets. I travelled through from Fife on supporters' buses and we all could get tickets. We all got tickets for games. You know, away games. And what happened when I started going on a particular bus is we always put our name down for the away games, me and my dad. And then eventually we started getting the tickets. And before you knew it, we were going to Tynecastle, we were going to Ibrox, and we were getting cup games and all the rest of it. We never ever needed a season ticket. But I remember the change. It was a sea change when Fergus came in and he realised coming over from Canada and being involved in Canadian sports that as a business, you could not possibly plan if you didn't know how much money was coming in. What an incredible bit of business vision that was. So therefore, he started selling season tickets. Not only that, he was promoting them and pushing them. At that point, Celtic had 8,000 season tickets. 6,000 to 8,000 was the figure. It jumped up and down, depending on how well we were doing. And we now have 54,000 season tickets. And, you know, people are now looking at that stadium that Fergus and the fans' money built, and they're saying, this is not the paradise that we like people to talk about, Lawrence. There's a wee bit of you that thinks, right, when a top-class team comes to town, even last season, Bayern Munich, Liam, you know, you take great credit in them getting spooked with the atmosphere and they go away saying, one of the best stadiums we've played at. The stadium is tired. The stadium needs tens of millions of pounds invested in it. And we're going to start looking at some of the big topics. I'm not talking about somebody on the board, one individual on the board, big topics. So today it's the stadium. We're going to be looking at the state of the stadium. We're going to be looking at the state of the academy. We're going to be looking at the state of recruitment. And then we're going to hit the state of the board. And within that will be fan engagement and everything else. So in terms of the stadium, What frustrates me, Liam, is again a lack of vision. We are now playing in the same stadium that Fergus built 30 years ago. The only real upgrade has been the Celtic way, and as Patrick quite rightly said last week, a big part of that was due to funding that was given to Celtic in terms of being able to implement that. You walk around or drive around the stadium, as I've said before, it is so tired. We need to absolutely revitalise it, and not just say we can only do that if we're playing outside of Scotland. I think that is an incredible statement for a football club to have made during their meeting with the association and affiliation.
Yeah, the thing is with the stadium, and I, as a sort of an appetizer to your This Is Acsom episode, I would encourage people to go and read the blog that I wrote about this a few days ago, the state of the stadium. I worked at Celtic Park. In addition to having a season ticket, I worked match days there with my dad's company. We supplied staff to the hospitality and to the kiosks. And so I got to see the whole match day operation behind the scenes, how it was all going. And quite frankly, 2002, 2003, it was looking antiquated, tired, in need of freshening up. Things were breaking down. The toilets weren't working. There was broken signage that was never fixed. And when I saw that video last week that the guys from Celtic World Order did, it was like, oh God, this is just like what I saw 15, 20 years ago. But it's just nothing's been done about it. And it's now just got to the point where it was in need of a refresh before. Now it's in need of a complete overhaul. It's gone beyond the stage of disrepair, and it's actually rot is setting in now. It's getting to the point where if this doesn't get sorted out in a couple of years' time, you could have genuine safety issues at the stadium, I think. Particularly in that main stand, which is just far too old.
Oh, without a doubt, it's a relic, Liam. It's an absolute relic. And I watched a brilliant graphic. I wish I had the skill to do it myself, but I watched a brilliant graphic on a proposal for Aston Villa Park, and how they would be able to, I think it was a £100 million development, more or less replace the main stand by building whilst people are still sitting in it until a certain point. So it's not as if we shut it down when the work starts and it gets reopened when the work finishes. But the big thing for me as well is when you talk about, Lawrence, inbuilt advantages, this is something that's been referred to on a number of occasions recently with regards to the vision of Fergus McCann. You go back to the Celtic fanzines of the time, talking about rebuilding Celtic Park and what size we needed in terms of a stadium. And I'm going to refer to the Not the View. They were talking 40 to 50,000 max.
Fergus McCann average 26, didn't you? I think the old average is 26. European games.
Was that an official average, or was that the board's average?
Probably, mate. But you know what I mean. It wasn't huge. Fergus brought the European games and certain games in Scotland would get big crowds. Outside of that, you used to go to games that would be 20 odd. So Fergus really brought this 60,000 every home game. That was Fergus's vision, wasn't it? And it gave us that inbuilt advantage.
Yeah.
10,000 more season books. And the club have explored other ways to get advantage. The Hotel Museum, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 sets of plans that have been passed and since lapsed. They've got the option of doing the main stand bit by bit. They could do that. They don't want to do it while we're still in Scotland. I don't know what the chances of Glasgow moving is. But it's just, I think it's short-sighted for them. And there's certain things that they acknowledge isn't good. The food service isn't good enough. And they brought the boys in for smoky trotters and they gave them one stall. Well, if you realised it wasn't good enough and you tried, why did it stop at one stall? Why didn't you revitalize? Many kiosks have you got? The kiosk stuff often's not good enough. I don't know. There must be 100 kiosks in there. And they're like, all right, we'll redo one of them. And you're like, right, but that means 99 are still not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So you realise the problem. You go to redo one, and it's stuff like that. Really easy wins for them that they could be doing. They could sit down with the collective and say, look, we agree there's aspects of the stadium that's really easy stuff that is easy to fix. The concourses, what can we do to improve the looks at? And I think I said to you, I'd love to hear Tom Grant say, give detail on what the second stage of the build was to make it more aesthetically pleasing. because, you know, breeze block, post-industrial architecture, it's not good.
Brutalism, I think it's called, the brutalist approach. Yes. The big thing I always go back to is the fact, and don't just do this, but we visit a lot of European football stadiums of a season, and it's almost, for me, we visit them in advance of the game because we need to, as I said before, the support liaison officer needs to know the setup for the fans going to the games, etc., and needs to speak to his counterpart over wherever we're playing. And I think that you can set up a dossier of, and, you know, document it as to improvements that you can make, be inspired by other clubs. I mean, as I said before, visited a couple of clubs down south in the last few years, blown away. And I don't just mean by the cost. You know, it's about embracing the community, the culture, the history of the football club, so that on a match day, the experience fits in with that. It's outside the stadium, it's in the concourses, as you say, Lawrence. It's when you go for a pie during the game or at half-time. It's the whole experience has to be Celtic. And it has to be, if you want to go back to that world class, not a bad aspiration to have, right? But we're miles away from it. We're absolutely miles away from that. We're now in a situation, in my view, that, you know, we could face a situation again, Liam, and I want to know your thoughts on this, where somebody approaches it and thinks, oh, by the way, they've had it's far too easy in this league. All we need is a wee bit of investment, and for everything else to just click into place and to have the harmony and get some momentum, right? And the wheels will fall off because of the laziness and the complacency, right? And the fans demand success, and then it'll be fans versus the board. And before you know it, a team like Hearts, which is who I'm talking about, ends up sitting top of the league. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, Liam, that if they go again in January, and this is, I think, where a lot of clubs have dropped off the radar, if they go again in January, they could keep this up. And it's the biggest fright Celtic could possibly get. Is it as big a fright as Rangers directors shouting and laughing and screaming and singing in front of Dermot Desmond's face? Will it cause him to step up and realise that the fans collective are maybe ahead of the curve on this?
No, it won't, because it doesn't personally affect his ego. And that's the issue. Desmond is entirely an ego-driven person. He's at a point now where no amount of money is going to change how he thinks, because he has got, you know, he could spend 100 grand a day for the rest of his life and not even touch his savings, right? But the reality of it all is those Rangers directors annoyed him personally, and he took it personally, and that was why we got that. For that very brief moment, we actually looked as if we were going to show some ambition. Not because it was the right thing to do, not because the team needed it, because the guy who owns the most shares got his feelings hurt in public. So maybe that's what the collective have to do now. Maybe we need to shame him into actually doing something. Maybe if we started protesting at some of these golf tournaments, we might get a reaction at him, because he seems to spend a lot more time on the course than he does at Celtic Park.
He does. And you know what? I think tactics are very, very important as a means of getting to the end game. The end game, what is the end game? For Celtic to be the best we could possibly be. And we're not at the moment. And I've used some big pillars, if you want to call it that, in terms of the stadium, the academy, the recruitment, the board. All of these things can improve. Absolutely. They can all improve. It's not going to happen overnight. But have a vision. Share the vision with fans. Bring fans into the hub. Speak to us like human beings, not just like customers. And more of that later. And in relation, for anybody who's just tapped into us, because we're 3,500 strong, I don't yet have an update in relation to being able to reveal or release anything official from the Celtic Fans Collective. What I would suggest is that you keep a wee eye on their social media pages, because as soon as it's available, it will be shared, and it'll be shared widely, and we'll share it on ours as well in relation to the outcome of last night. There's been a lot of leaks. These things do happen, but we need to try and tighten that up, I would suggest, in relation to that, especially when they're quoting me. Dearie me. Joe Loughlin, here we go. Merch sales and bums on seats, in my opinion, are the only two options open that will eventually trigger any real response from this board. If Brendan does go, will a Maloney production fill the stadium? No. The answer to that is no, Joe. because I think going big is what happened after the incident Liam described. Going big is what we did when we brought in Brendan Rodgers. We've not gone big since then. Let's be honest. We brought Brendan back. We brought him back, right? It wasn't going big. It wasn't ambitious. It was going back to the well. I love Brendan Rodgers as a manager. That's not a dig at him. But as a club, we didn't go big. We didn't show vision. We went back to the well, just like we did with Neil Lennon second time round. We got lucky with Ange Postecoglou, Lawrence. You know, we don't make big, ambitious appointments all that often.
We tried to. Eddie Howe messed that deal up.
Yeah.
You know, so we did try. Listen, on balance, I would say, you know, Dermot Desmond he runs the club as a business, which, you know, it's got to be run as a business. We just think there's certain things could be better. On balance, he's been good for the club, but there's no harm in us saying, do you know what? You can make the match day experience a lot better for ordinary fans, by improving facilities inside and outside the stadium for them. You could probably make it more enjoyable by developing more youth players from the Celtic Academy. Might save yourself some money. Get deals done in time. You know, don't look as foolish. Listen to the go-ahead Eagles chairman laugh at them because the new club were able to do deals better than us. You know, listen, I'm not shouting on the quality of their deals, but certainly the speed they were able to get them.
It's about relationships with clubs and agents, Lawrence, isn't it? And if you start to fracture those, then your future business becomes more and more difficult.
Aye, you know, you don't want your club to be getting laughed at, but made the butt of a joke. And I'm sure that Dermot doesn't want that. But, you know, I think on balance, he's been good. But there's loads we can improve. Certainly in all four of the areas you're going to do a show on, is without doubt. But there's easy things like the stadium. Everybody could agree it needs work done on. So go and give us a time scale. What is it you're planning? What do you think the fans want? I remember having to go and test pies for them. You know, they used to do that stuff when Fergus was there. You know,
Lawrence
pies are best.
Was an official pie eater or pie taster. I'm not sure, but I'm going to say pie eater. You're a pie man.
Yeah, but pie eater's much better, isn't it? So, yeah, you know, we've all done certain things for Celtic, and that was me. I think it was almost a dozen pies of an evening. Kenny Harkin was one as well. So if Kenny's out there, yeah, what a night that was.
You got a jersey, didn't you? Was it pie taster on
the back? Yeah, pie man. So it was 2003 actually. But listen, before the show closes, a big shout out to Paddy from Ayarog, who's on pilgrimage in Santiago de Compostela. So hopefully that pilgrimage goes well for Paddy. His feet aren't too sore, and lifts his spirits hearing his name while he's walking.
All the best for that, Paddy. All the best for that. And I believe, Liam, you've got a wee shout out yourself as well, my man.
Yes. But before I do that, though, just one wee thing I noticed in the comments there that I want to pick up on, right? Now, I am not a defender of the board or whatever, right? But I saw a couple of people raising the point that all of the food that's left over at the end of a match day is binned rather than being given to homeless or food banks or whatever, right? Celtic have no control over that. I know from my time working at the stadium, that is a hygiene issue handed down by Glasgow City Council. Food that has been already cooked cannot be taken out and reheated. It's stupid, but it's a bylaw in Glasgow, and it prevents Celtic from giving the food to the homeless, because there were initiatives at the club when I was there to try and do that, and the council told them no, it breaches food hygiene regulations. So I just want to put that out there just to clear things up a wee bit, because I saw a few different people in the chat talking about that and getting angry with the club about that. That is one of the few things that we cannot blame on the board. So I just wanted to highlight that. But more importantly, it's October, and once again I am doing the 1 Foot Forward challenge for mental health. I'm going to be walking 500 kilometres over the course of the month. I've already done about 75 kilometres in the last few days. So I want to get to 500 before Halloween. And yeah, if you guys want to sponsor me, I would really appreciate it. I will put a link into the comments of this show once we're done. I can't get into it right now because I'm on a stream with you guys, but I will put the link into the comments later on. And yeah, any donation, big or small, is very much appreciated. Mental health is something that affects me, affects plenty of people we know, and it's something that I think needs more research, needs more help, and I'm trying to do my wee bit for it. So please, if you can, guys, give us a wee couple of quid, would be much appreciated.
Hats off to you, mate. Yeah, get that added into the comment section. Absolutely. It's great that you're able to speak about it, first and foremost, Liam, to share your experiences. A bit of self-disclosure is not always easy, and full credit to you. So well done, mate, and we will support you as much as we possibly can. I've got to say, listen, there's a thought process in relation to fan media, content creation, and all that kind of stuff. The way that we consume it now is different from back in the day. Fan media used to be the fanzine movement, and I think from there we got into like message boards and forums and all that kind of stuff, which still exists to this day. But then obviously with regards to podcasting and videography and all that kind of stuff, it's changed. And what I want to say is there might be people out there who love rattling nests and all that kind of stuff, rattling cages and kicking hornets' nests to try and get more clicks and all that. And it might work for them. But all I would say is that at the time that Acsom has been on and going live and all this kind of stuff, we get as many people watching us when we're doing good stuff as we do when we're doing bad, winning trebles and all that kind of stuff. Announcing Brendan Rodgers as a manager, the Ange Postecoglou arrival and his time at the football club, we got just as many people tuning in then as we did when it's no so good. So we would never feed it. We'd never feed the beast just for the sake of taking a kick at Celtic. I want to see Celtic being the absolute best football club it can possibly be. And I want my kids to be the same. I want them to watch a Celtic that we can all be proud of. So when you see things that you're unhappy with, and you just don't think it's hitting the standard that we have set as a football club, nobody else, our own standard, then I think it's right to question it. I think it's healthy to question it. And we'll continue to question it. I wish I could have shared everything that happened last night in the meeting, but I'm going to stay true to the Fans Collective, and I'm just going to remain silent until it's released. So apologies for anybody who thought they were going to get a warts and all. I think I probably can give that to you tomorrow. But thanks everybody for getting involved. It's not about sensationalism. It's about Celtic being the best we can possibly be. Liam was talking about Halloween earlier on. I don't really go guising these days, but what I am doing is I'm going to Greenock on the 31st of October, and I'm going to be met by Chris Sutton. Absolutely. I don't know if he's bringing his Chris Boyd mask along with him, but you can dress up if you want. Come along to the gig. It's always a great night in the Greenock CSC. 31st of October, ticket link underneath this video. Come along and get involved in an Acsom live event. Thank you, every single one of you. Yes?
You need to watch about guising.
How?
There was a guy doing guising in Glasgow. He lost his job because of it. He was kidding on he was a football manager.
Liam likes that. There you go. He's loving it. Yeah, we never even had a much chance to have a wee dig at the other side of the city. We're concentrating on Celtic right now, but Lawrence never misses. There we go. Thanks every single one of you. 3,700 strong on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm away to record the latest episode of This Is Acsom. Get involved in the chat. Send us DMs on the social media. Email us. Do all that kind of stuff. And I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks everybody for getting involved on A Celtic State of Mind.